Hi everybody and welcome to Matrix Live Season 2, Episode 33, in which I'm going to be enunciating very clearly in my best BBC accent, because apparently some people can't understand a word of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Takes a lot of training to understand what you say.
Thank you. I'm meant to be supportive. Tell us about lazy loading, Amandine and Riot.
So lazy loading is now available on /develop on web and available by default on iOS for those who are using test flight releases. And actually, we can spread them. We can share more test flight release for those who want to. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we can give you these.
Yep, come and find us on #riot-iOS on matrix.org and say, please, I want to be on test flight because I like betaing things, and we will add your email address to test flight.
But that's we can also share a link. Remember,
that's
the whole thing. Apple allows now to.
Yeah, we'll need to set it up, but yeah.
Yeah. On Android, it's still behind the Labs flag, but you can still play with it. So in terms of performances, it's quite impressive. I think it's dividing RAM by at least 2, but even more.
At least 3.
3.
The best the worst we've seen has been a 3 times improvement in RAM, and for me it's 5 because my account's so big, and it at least halves the sync speed, but could be even better than that. The kind of depressing thing is that once you're into the app, unless you're looking in top or whatever to see how much RAM the app is using, you don't actually notice much difference, which is a bit frustrating. However, it architecturally puts things in a much, much better place in terms of using 300 megs of RAM rather than a gigabyte of RAM, which, let's face it, has got to be good somewhere.
Yeah, indeed. We also had Travis starting attacking our big first impressions list, so that first-time users are less bitten by problems. It's quite a big project, but Matthew is supporting him.
If by supporting you mean like doing pom-poms from the side and apologising it's ended up with such a big list of slightly depressing bugs. But inspirational bugs.
Fight by him.
Really? Yes, yeah. Most of the bugs are Travis's, so it's a kind of divine comic cycle that has come back to end up working on them. But for instance, fixing GDPR consent so that it happens in a much, much easier way, and it doesn't mean that RiotBot no longer works at all. If people have been missing RiotBot when they sign up for new accounts for the last 5 months, it's because we broke it with GDPR, and also all sorts of other onboarding flaws there. It's basically anything that bites a user in the first 24 hours, hopefully will be fixed.
Yeah, there has been... UX work. Tell us about UX work.
Well, UX work, where to begin? It's been a really UX-y week, actually.
Yeah.
So we probably mentioned, I hope we mentioned before, the Nad Chisti joined us a few weeks ago, about a month ago now, I guess.
Beginning of August, yeah.
Yeah, beginning of August, so almost 2 months, to work on UX full-time on all of the stuff that we're doing here. That started off with Modular, the hosted home server offering, but has now moved on to Riot, and so we had a big workshop with Yoni, who's the designer who's designed the core of the redesign of Riot Web this week on Wednesday or Tuesday or something. And basically there is a massive resurgence of UX design stuff. Now, the main things we're concentrating on is end-to-end, because now we've got most of the building blocks in place for finishing at last end-to-end encryption and getting it out of beta. So we've got all the backup stuff working and implemented. We've got designs for the cross-signing stuff, which we're about to start working on the tech side. And we've got designs for the verification stuff. But whilst obviously there's some coding to be done to do the actual cryptography and stuff, we basically have most of the building blocks. What we've totally failed on is to have a coherent UX going all the way through, like wireframes and mock-ups of what it means to log in, what it means to register, and all the end-to-end stuff. So particularly in the last couple of days, we've been having a lot of brainstorming on that. and it's looking good.
And brainwashing.
Yes.
Poor Ned has been parachuted into the big UI end-to-end encryption things of Matrix, which has been quite fun. But soldiered through it, and it's really good to eventually sit down and look at the whole thing and say, okay, what is actually acceptable for a normal user and what is acceptable for someone who is very privacy conscious, because since more than a year we've been going around saying what we want to do is a super secure app, but it needs to be super simple for the users who don't understand tech. It also needs to be super complete for the people who actually want to tune every details. And now we're eventually getting to actually designing this, and it's great. It's hard, but it's great.
Indeed. Also, because clearly end-to-end by itself isn't hard enough, we've also gone and reopened at last the Pandora's box of communities. As people have noted over the last year quite reasonably, communities aren't quite as good as we would hope them to be, for many, many reasons, where the UX might not have... Well, actually, the UX is relatively okay, but the implementation has ended up getting a bit confused in many different levels of the stack. And in fact, I was noticed in #Neko the other day, there was general complaints about how useless communities were and how they've changed the left panel there to be instead tags rather than communities.
Okay.
And it is all this sort of thing that we totally didn't nail first time round. However, Ned has come in and said, wow, communities could be amazing if they were done right. Why didn't you guys work out how to do it? In fact, should we have a great big workshop on working out how to design the UX around communities again? And so part of that is because the redesign is going to be quite focused around communities still. We still think that it is much better if new users find it because they're being dumped into the GNOME experience or the KDE experience or the Status or Tezos or Linux or whatever it might happen to be community. So warning that we're looking at it again, and this time I'm hoping we can get it right. And we're yet to talk about the technical side of how that can be implemented, but I am feeling cautiously overexcited and optimistic just for a change.
We also are not going to let down the people who are actually using Riot for WhatsApp-like use cases, and that's again one of the big things that we've all been wanting to do for ages and haven't got to, and attacking where you can get dumped into Riot via community, or you can just install it and try to speak to people and get that right is going to be great. So lots of excitement here again.
Indeed. In terms of the redesign, every 2 or 3 minutes somebody comes into #Riot redesign and says, #Riot-design and says, when is it going to be ready? Are we nearly there? Are we nearly there yet? How many miles is it? And the answer is we're going to try to get the first cut live on riot.im/experimental, which is the experimental feature branch CI thing, which don't look at it now because it's probably got an experiment from about 2 years ago on it. But we're going to dust it off, we'll put it there and get it something up there by the end of October, hopefully earlier. So basically our goals for October are to get an end-to-end UX implemented, probably using the existing app theme, but also have the new theme there too, and probably be able to forward the end-to-end stuff into it, at which point Riot Web is going to be looking very, very different. So nice, easy thing, it'll just take a month, it'll be fine.
Yes, no problem. And all the exciting stuff about proper onboarding and with the communities gotten right, etc., is going to come probably a bit later because it's a bit more work here. But at least we'll have a pretty Riot and good end-to-end encryption UX.
Indeed. Synapse.
Synapse, yes. Rich has been hammering on federation bugs, which should make a lot of people happier.
Eric's been on holiday in Spain, so it's good for Eric. But Rich has been left behind holding the proverbial slightly broken baby, trying to fix particularly federation woes affecting Travis. But I've been vaguely looking at the PRs and issues flying by, and they look very, very helpful for everybody. Reminder that Pi3 shipped. Please use it. Tell us whether it breaks or not. It should halve your RAM, at least, if not go down by a factor of 3. And then finally, October is a return to the forbidden planet of spec work. So we basically spent all of September frantically trying to fix all of the operational and maintenance and bug disasters that happened whilst we took our hands off the Synapse steering wheel to progress spec work in August. And now we're back at it again in October to go and put as much manpower as we possibly can on fixing the spec stuff. The aim is to try to get S2S Arnold out the door by the end of October again. Come back to us in 4 weeks and see who's still standing or whether we're crying into our beer or whatever it might happen to be.
Let's see Halloween with Ghost of backend team after a full spec month.
If it actually comes together, we should have a Halloween party. That'd be fun.
We already had an autumn.
Yeah, we had an equinox party because it was such nice weather and I wanted to cook. Anyway, what are we talking about? Bridges.
Bridges, yeah.
Bridges. Halfshot is back in the saddle and has been cracking on through bridging stuff, particularly Slack PRs, integrating the work from Perisology, I think, from Giveth, and also Kader, both of whom have custom forks of the Slack bridge that made it way better using new APIs, and it's all being merged back into the main branch. So if you've been a bit disappointed in the Slack bridge recently, rejoice, for good news is coming. Also, the IRC bridge is looking like it might be a bit better too. Oh, and it's also been making good progress on the rework of the IRC bridge to use the connection tracking stuff, I believe.
Good.
Any more?
I think that's it. And it feels short, but then there is a lot of stuff on the Riot side, so I'm not sure. But I think we haven't forgotten anything. It's Eric's fault for being away.
Yeah.
It's always Eric's fault.
That's Eric's fault. Cool. Yeah, can't think of anything else. That's the level of coherency you were asking for, right? Brilliant. Sorry if you can't understand what I'm saying. Have a lovely weekend. Speak to you soon.